Perfect. Thank you, Jason, for joining us. Welcome, everyone. If you have any questions, please submit them on the question tab, and that way I can ask them to Jason, or he can go there himself and answer that for you. But with no other questions in mind, Jason, take it over.
Good morning, everybody. So we're going to be talking about service animals and ESAs, and I'm not sure now in the chats, will you guys let me know if there's questions, or will I be able to see those?
You'll be able to see them on the questions tab, but if you want to stop and ask me if you have any questions, I can ask those and you can answer them.
Perfect, I see it there. Okay, awesome. All right, and we're just looking for the article here. I know it was in the magazine. You guys may be able to help me find which page that's on. And I'm hoping everybody that's on got a chance to read the article. There's a lot of new things, and we can even just go check those out. Let's that have changed with the HUD guidelines in regards to service animals. And the main thing is you want to be able to treat everybody the same when it comes to anybody that has a service animal. Those service animals you cannot charge a fee for those. So the thing about it is there's certain questions I apologize for not knowing which page the article was on. So here we go. And this is straight from HUD. So the notice explains certain obligations of housing providers under the Fair Housing Act with respect to animals that individuals with disabilities may request as reasonable accommodations. And that's one of the things too that we want to cover is the verbiage on most of your documents. So the verbiage on the document should reflect animals, because service animals, emotional support animals, those are not viewed as pets in some cases. So yes, there are pets and there are animals. Yes.
I'm sorry, it was on the March issue and it's page 15. So if you go back to the
Oh, perfect. Okay.
And then you scroll down.
And anybody that wants to see this, we are on harconnect.com, and you would go down to the March issue.
So go to Houston Realtor Archive. It's right there on your right side. Scroll down.
Oh. Perfect.
And click that where it says magazine.
Archives.
And then the third one on 2020 archive, that should be the March.
And I'm going to show my webcam too, if that's okay. All right. Okay. And that was on which page? I'm sorry.
15.
Okay. We'll come back to that in just a moment. So, but yeah, any of these articles, webcams, usually you can find all that stuff at harconnect.com. So feel free to browse around over there. But the purpose of using animals, so again, pets are pets and animals are animals, and these are viewed more as an occupant of the home. And the thing to remember, there are two types of assistance animals. There are service animals and other untrained animals that also do work, perform tasks, provide assistance. So when it comes to therapeutic animals and emotional support animals, oftentimes now those are treated as service animals. But there's one thing that people that forget when they're the fraudulent ones will try to get over on you by going online, printing off a document that says their pet is an emotional support animal, and they're hoping to get out from under all of the pet fees and all the things that come along with having a pet. So the thing to remember is with emotional support animals, there is supposed to be a doctor-patient relationship there, meaning that the patient has actually consulted with the doctor, they have a relationship, the doctor has prescribed, yes, this is an emotional support animal. And that is different than somebody going to a website online and just printing that document off. So the thing about it is, whenever you get that document, there may be some research on your end that you can do to see where the document came from. All right, so the other thing about service animals, emotional support animals, is you don't want to ask anything about the person's disability. That can cause all kinds of other problems, and it is their right to privacy. They can disclose that if they want, but please do not ask about it. That could get you in some legal trouble. The other thing with those animals, though, that you can ask, what task is the animal trained to perform? And also too, with service animals and emotional support animals, once you approve the tenant per everything else to where that has not been a part of your decision, at that point is also where you would go back into that if the animal does any damage to the home, it would be like an occupant. So you would be able to take, the proper measures to get the home repaired and things of that nature. All right. So, and this document, I am on HUD.gov. So if you just Google HUD and HUD guidelines regarding service animals, you'll be able to find this document. And we're just going to go right down through it here. Again, this notice applies to everybody. Nobody, if you're dealing with rental property, this applies to you. There are two sections. The first is assessing a person's request to have an animal as a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. Recommends a set of best practices for complying with the FHA when assessing accommodation requests involving animals to assist housing providers and help them avoid violations of the FHA. The second is the guidance on documenting an individual's need for assistance animals in housing. And we can go over those together. So, assessing a person's request to have an animal as a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act, it makes it unlawful for a housing provider to refuse to make a reasonable accommodation to a person with a disability. We're all familiar with that. And again, here we go where we talk about the verbiage. Assistance animals are not pets. These are animals that do work, perform tasks, assist in providing therapeutic emotional support for individuals with disabilities. A lot of the misconception is that anything can be deemed a service animal. The service animals are very specific, they're very expensive, and a service animal would be either a dog or a small horse, meaning a miniature horse, something of that nature. Those will be trained as service animals. So other animals, when an applicant comes in and writes on their application that they have a ferret or a crocodile or anything that we've seen, everything over the years that somebody could put down as a service animal, that is not valid. And you know that right away just by that right there. Now, is it an emotional support animal? It very well could be, but again, that would come back to that doctor-patient relationship. An animal that does not qualify as a service animal or other type of assistance animal is a pet for purposes of the FHA and may be treated as a pet for purposes of the lease and housing providers' rules and policies. Meaning, if you deem that is not a service animal or an emotional support animal, then at that stage you can go through with your pet policies, everything that you require from a pet owner. And that's one of the things that we have landlords that say we don't take pets at all. That can really hurt your rental rate and how long your property is on the market. I believe the statistics now are over 60%, maybe even higher than that, of households that have animals, households that have pets. And I know, just thinking where we're at here, I believe every person on the block, for as far as I can see, has animals, has pets. And so if you say we don't take pets, then you're really taking yourself out of a huge pool of applicants. And with the proper measures, pets really aren't that big of a deal. And it's just having all the things in place and being able to make sure that the pet owners coming in are responsible pet owners. But even for and you in real estate, you may have clients like this that tell you, hey, we don't take pets. And sometimes it's hard to help them understand it's hard to help them understand that they can't say we don't take service animals or emotional support animals. That could get you in trouble. That could get them in trouble as the homeowner. And so a lot of times it's your job to help them understand that this is not negotiable. This is another occupant, just as if it were a human being. And let me know if I'm missing any questions or anything like that.
We do have a question
Yes.
from someone that said, so the service animal has to be trained. Can we request a copy of the doctor's?
So with the service animal, typically service animals cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So they're going to have proper paperwork showing that that is a service animal, and you can require documents to know if that dog is a service animal. And so, but the thing is asking for proof that the dog is, and that's exactly what I would say. We just need proof that that you have a service animal. I wouldn't say anything about their disability or anything like that. But yes, they're going to have the paperwork that they need, someone in that situation, because like I said, the dog is such an asset to their life and to their well-being and to their quality of life that they're going to make sure they have everything in place. That's the ones, and the way it'll work typically is somebody will ask your pet fees or things of that nature, and then all of a sudden you're presented with a document that this is a service animal that was printed the day before, or it was the date on it's the day before. So they went online, signed up for a service, and got fake service animal documents. Now with the emotional support animals, they should have the same paperwork, and on that paperwork it should have the doctor that requested that. And all you can, it depends on what type of volume you're running, how far you want to take it. But if you can research that doctor and see if that doctor is in fact a doctor. I would do research like that before, and I'll give you guys a secret in the industry. There is a company that does this. I'm not affiliated with them, but it's petscreening.com. They vet all that out, and you may want to browse around on their website and just get some more information, because there are certain questions, there's certain criteria, but with the doctor, you are allowed to vet out to make sure there is a doctor-patient relationship there. So, and when you start doing that, a lot of times the applicants will come forward. Let's look down through here. It's all okay. So assistance animals are not pets. They are animals that do work, perform tasks. There are two types: service animals and other assistance animals. So emotional support animals, there's such gray area there that's what most people are going to try to pass their pets off are as the emotional support animal. The service animal is getting harder and harder because, like I said, it's so specific. Service animals, there's usually no question if somebody has a service animal, they will have all the proper documentation and everything to back that up. With emotional support animals, there's a lot more resources online to fake that. And so that's where you can do your research. Especially, Google is your friend. Google that doctor first, whatever is on the paperwork or the proof that you receive. And were we able to, I'm on page 15, but I'm not seeing the article there. I'll refer back to it once we find it there. And HUD is providing this guidance to help, let's see, as a state of issue of guidance, FHA complaints concerning denial of reasonable accommodation and disability access comprise almost 60% of all FHA complaints. And those involving requests for reasonable accommodation for assistance animals are significantly increasing. So what's that saying is they're telling you that, hey, we're getting complaints for this, for people not adhering to our emotional support animal. That's for the ones that are actually emotional support animals, and landlords are saying, we're not going to take that animal. It's not a service animal, so we don't have to. Well, if there is a doctor-patient relationship there, that has to be treated just like a service animal. And so what they're saying is these complaints are coming through. So you as the landlord or as the agent, the one that they're looking to for guidance on this, you just want to make sure that they do take it serious, because even if they get a complaint filed, it's still going to cost them money to fight that complaint. There's no way around. You even if you win, you still have to defend yourself against that complaint, and it's not ever cheap. Even if it's just ends up being your time, it's going to cost you some pain and headache. So definitely help your clients understand that they have to take those serious and do the proper vetting of those.
Jason, try page 9.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yes. Okay. So support animals and how are they determined? There are many places an applicant can go to fake these documents. So the best practices are asking the following questions to the documentation provider: the patient's name, whether the healthcare professional has a relationship with the patient involving the provisions of the healthcare disability related services. So basically on there, keep it vague. Just, do you have a relationship with this client? That's all you need to know. And the type of animal. That way, if they're saying they have a ferret as an emotional support animal, you're going to get that confirmed, and then the date of the last consultation. So yes, those are the questions you can ask. And again, for anybody that wants to see this, we're in harconnect.com and in the magazine archives. So these are the recommended assessments to help determine if the animal is a service animal. So going back to determining if this is a service animal and an emotional support animal, is the animal a dog? If it's not, and even the miniature horses now in apartments and rental property, it's probably going to be a little bit rare that you see a miniature horse. If you see one, now you will be educated enough to know, okay, that is probably a true service animal. And service animals are so specific that people spend $20,000, $30,000 and up training those animals. Is the animal required after the above assessment? Be advised to ask if the following question: is the animal required because of a disability? What work or task has the animal been trained to perform? So right there, I would even ask, just what task is the animal trained to perform? Again, you can ask that question legally per HUD, but it's better if we just stick to, what task is the animal trained to perform. That's going to give you enough that you need to know that this is a service animal, and you'll have the documentation. And if you have the documentation and you feel good about it, service animals are going to be easier. It's really, like I said, the fraud regarding the emotional support animals that individuals are going to try to try to get over and try to get out from under the fees. And like I said, this document, I would encourage everyone to go read it page by page, because everything that you need to know is going to be in here under the service animal and the emotional support animal guidelines. And this is where those came from. So as best practice, housing providers may use the following questions to help determine if this is a service animal under the American Disabilities Act. Is this animal a dog? If yes, if it is readily apparent that the dog is trained to perform a task for the benefit of an individual with a disability. If yes, further inquiries are necessary and appropriate because the animal is a service animal. If no, proceed to the next question. Is it readily apparent when the dog is observed guiding an individual who is blind or has low vision, pulling a wheelchair, providing assistance with stability or balance? So their HUD is wanting you, to understand and take the necessary guidelines to be able to vet whether this is a service animal or not. There are going to be some things that are a dead giveaway. It is advisable for the housing provider to limit its inquiries to the following two questions. The housing provider may ask in substance: is the animal required as of a disability, and what work or task has the animal been trained to perform. So just like in the article, these are the two questions. Do not ask about the nature or the extent of the person's disability, and do not ask for documentation. I did not discretion may make the truth and accuracy of its information provided during the process as part of the representations made by the tenant under a lease or similar housing extent agreements, requires the truth and accuracy of other material information. Okay. If the answer to question 1 is yes, a work or task is identified in response to the question, grant the requested accommodation if otherwise reasonable because of the animal qualifies as a service animal. So it's telling you, is this animal a dog? Is it readily apparent that the dog is trained to do a work or perform a task? If the answer to either question is no, the animal does not qualify as a service animal under the federal law, but may be a support animal or other type of emotional assistance animal. So if that animal is not a dog and that animal is not trained to perform any type of task, it does not qualify as a service animal. And then it goes into what, if the individual identifies at least one action the dog is trained, if no specific work or task, the dog should not be considered a service animal. So they really lay it out really well on what is a service animal and what is not a service animal. Just checking the questions there. Analysis of reasonable accommodation. So now, if they make, let's say they require things to be done to the house to help. A reasonable accommodation is a change, exception, or adjustment to a rule, policy, or practice, a service that may be necessary for a person with a disability to have equal opportunity to use and enjoy a dwelling, including public and common use spaces. While it is not necessary to submit a written request, the words reasonable accommodation, assistance animal, or other special words to request a reasonable accommodation under FHA, persons making the request are encouraged to do so. So it's best to have it in writing. That way, if they have to do things to the property, that you can request that property be put back in its current state once the lease has ended. And just let me know again if there's any questions. I know we're covering a lot of ground here today.
I do have
yes.
What do you tell them if you see the documents were generated the day before?
Then in that case, I would tell them that you're going to go back to here and you're going to ask, let me go. You're going to let them know that you will do further research. And a lot of times it is good to have this information in your criteria. If you're a landlord, a property manager, you should have a front page to your application that lets everyone know, hey, here's what's required. Here's what's required for service animals and emotional support animals. And if we do receive that documentation, these are the questions that we're going to ask. The patient's name, whether the healthcare provider has a relationship with the patient. And a lot of times you'll see people come back and say, oh, it may not be an emotional support animal. It may just be a pet. They already know, but they gave it a good try. But on that criteria, you can let them know not only do we take our animals serious and our pets serious, but we also screen for criminal. We're looking for past rental verifications from your landlords. All of that information can help someone determine if they're even going to qualify for your rental property. And the service animal and emotional support animal, that you should have on the front page there that there are no fees for service animals or emotional support animals. But when you do that, that's when you're going to get the people that go the day before, print it out, and then try to submit that. But you do have these guidelines that you can take, these measures to make sure that it is actual emotional support animal.
And are supported
Yes.
animals and service animals treated the same?
Yes, they are. If there's a doctor-patient relationship, it is treated just exactly like a service animal.
Perfect. And then you mentioned earlier that we have to ask for documentation, but the HUD document said you cannot.
So regarding your emotional support animals, that's when you would be able to ask for documentation. Let's go further down and yeah. And if you have a legal counsel, you know, I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, so please also feel free to consult with them when it comes to these type of decisions regarding your policies. But what HUD is saying here, and I wish I could find that again, but they're saying if you observe that the person is obviously blind, they obviously have a disability, there's no need to ask for that documentation. But let's find that and reread that section just to make sure we all understand it together.
And while you try to find that, will you also let them know where they can find the document and where they can locate it?
You bet. So what you'll want to do is go over here and just go to your Google search and Google HUD guidelines regarding service animals. And that's going to bring up the first box here. It's kind of a long link. That's really the best way to get there. They have a lot more information. The next one down would have been assessing, so that's going to bring you to the document where we're at now. And I'll be honest with you, that part right there, I've never really seen that, so that kind of did throw me for a loop, and I want to get more information on it by myself. But again, that's where companies like PetScreening.com are amazing, because going into it as the landlord or the property management company, making these decisions can be a liability. You know, you're trying to determine this, you're trying to make sure you ask all the right questions. And as far as I know, they're the only company on the market that does that, that knows exactly what to do. To be honest, most people throughout the country right now are using them. They've been around a couple of years, but he is a property manager out of North Carolina that kept having people lie to him, and that's why that company was started. And I apologize for not knowing which page that was on.
That's completely fine. I do have one more question left. How do you approach someone if you think they're being fraudulent?
If somebody's being fraudulent, you're going to let them know that that you have found that this website just prints off documents, that you did not find a doctor-patient relationship. And if they can give you that information, the doctor's name to consult with, totally fine. But you need to vet out the number and the place of business that you're calling. But in that instance, then you would let them know that you found that this was not an enforceable, emotional support animal, and the pet fees would apply at that point. So as the landlord or property manager, that's where it's really, you would be able to talk with that person about the emotional support animal, not a disability or anything like that, just the emotional support animal. But you are able to vet that out, and you are allowed to do that. That can be part of your criteria, because pets, yes, they do damage to property, and it is still the landlord or property manager's right to make sure that the animal is what they say it is, that it's not actually looked at as a pet, which is not looked at as an occupant, as a human. Okay, this immediately individually trained, we covered that. It's readily apparent. Okay, as a best practice, yes, here we go again. Okay, so is it apparently readily the dog is trained? If yes, further inquiries are necessary, and are unnecessary and inappropriate because the animal is a service animal. If no, proceed to the next question. It is readily apparent when the dog is observed guiding that. So they're giving you some examples here of what is readily apparent. It is advisable for the housing provider to limit its inquiries to the following questions. So here we can go back to the housing provider may ask in substance, is the animal required because of a disability? What work or task has the animal been trained to perform? Do not ask about the nature of the disability. So if you guys want to email me, feel free to email me. I'm actually laid off at the moment due to COVID-19. We're just in some transition periods here, but you can email me at managementscreening@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to. I'm going to look more into this, and if you just want to email me and say what did you find out regarding the asking of documents, I'm actually going to consult with the owner of petscreening.com and see what he recommends on this. And that was managementscreeningsolutions@gmail.com. And I will be happy to help and cover that again in detail, because I'm just not sure where it was at on this document.
I do have a question coming in.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you request a pet app fee to use screening company?
Yes, you sure can. So, and actually they'll take care of that. So if it's a pet, they're going to be looking at a lot of other things, vet records, bite records, anything, so that you as the landlord can say, you know, this was, and this is what I love about it. This is why I've referred people over to them, because you as the landlord can say that dog was safe, that animal was safe, that cat was safe upon moving into the property. We used a third-party company that took care of that, and there is a fee. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I want to say 20 or 25 for the first pet and like 15 for the second pet or additional pets. But the applicant pays that separately, and the ones that have implemented it with our clients, I have checked in over the past 2 years, and there's been no pushback from applicants. When it comes to their pets, they want to show that they have a safe pet, that they have their vet records, that they have everything in place. The responsible pet owners seem like they never had problem doing it. But that way the liability is off of you, and it's totally outside of your company to make that decision. And if the fees can definitely be covered by the tenant, and what they found is about 30% of people lie. And so if you've got 10 applicants, 3 of them are going to try to pass their animals off as service animals or emotional support animals.
And those are all the questions I had so far.
Yes, ma'am. Was there another question? I'm sorry, it kind of cut out.
No, those were all the questions so far.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so some websites sell certificates, registrations, and licensing documents for assistance animals to anyone who answers certain questions or participants in short interview and pays a fee. Under the Fair Housing Act, a housing provider may request reliable documentation. Here we are, okay. A housing provider may request reliable documentation when an individual requesting a reasonable accommodation has a disability and disability-related need for an accommodation that are not obvious or otherwise known. In HUD's experience, such documentation from the internet is not by itself sufficient to reliably establish that an individual has a non-observable disability or disability-related need for an assistance animal. So that's what they're saying. On the readily, with the disabilities, if they're asking for your pet fees or for things like that, you know, that's reasonable accommodation, meaning that they're not going to have to pay those pet fees. So you do have a right to ask certain questions, to ask for documentation, but that does not mean that that documentation is the end all be all just because the applicant printed something off. By contrast, many legitimate licensed healthcare professionals deliver services remotely, including over the internet. One reliable form of documentation is a note from a person's healthcare provider that confirms a person's disability or need for an animal when the provider has personal knowledge of the individual. And then it goes into the questions that we talked about a minute ago. Has the person receiving the accommodation provided information which reasonably supports that the animal does work, perform tasks, provides assistance, or provides therapeutic emotional support with respect to a person's individual's disability? So if yes, the housing provider at its discretion may make the truth and accuracy of information providing during the process as part of representations made by the tenant under a lease agreement, or to the extent that the lease agreement requires the truth and accuracy of other material information. If no, the housing provider is not required to grant the accommodation unless the information is provided, but may not deny the accommodation on the grounds that the person requesting the accommodation has not provided this information until the requester has been provided a reasonable opportunity to do so. So that they're saying, give the person a chance to get you the proper documentation. Just because they didn't have it right then, you know, if they're saying it's an emotional support animal, you want to give them the opportunity to prove that it is an emotional support animal, not just deny them. So you could deny somebody when they say that, and then they did have documentation. Now you may be having to defend yourself again. The housing provider is encouraged to direct the requester to the guidance of documenting an individual's need for service assistance animals in housing. Referring the requester to that guidance will also help ensure that the housing provider receives the disability related information that is actually needed to make a reasonable accommodation decision. And let me know if there's any questions. I know we're covering a lot of ground here today.
No questions?
Okay, good. All right. So information confirming disability related need for an assistance animal. Reasonably supporting information often consists of information from a licensed healthcare professional, general to the condition, but specific as to the individual with a disability or the assistance or therapeutic emotional support provided by the animal. Here's where we go into the relationship part. So a relationship is a connection between the disability and the need for an assistance animal. It must be provided. This is particularly when the case where a disability is non-observable or the animal provides therapeutic emotional support. So there's going to be many cases you can't ask about the disability, so you're not going to be able to know why that person needs that animal just by looking at them or observing them. For non-observable disabilities in animals that provide therapeutic emotional support, a housing provider may ask for information that is consistent with that identified in the guidance on documenting the individual's need. The questions on 6 and 7, of course, were here. The person requesting accommodation provided the information. And has the person requesting the accommodation provided information that reasonably supports what they're asking for? The lack of such documentation in many cases may be reasonable grounds for denying the requested accommodation. So what that means is if your client tells you they don't take pets in their home, and the person is telling you they have an emotional support animal, but they have no documentation, nothing to back that up, they're just telling you it's an emotional support animal, then you don't have to accommodate the no pet fees. That animal would then be treated as a pet. Type of animal, is the animal commonly kept in households? If yes, the reasonable accommodation should be provided that under the FHA, unless general exceptions described below exist. If no, a reasonable accommodation need not be provided. If the animal is outdoor, there may not be anything. There may not be any guidelines there. Animals commonly kept in households. If the animal is a dog, small bird, rabbit, hamster, etc., that is traditionally kept in the home for pleasure rather than for commercial purposes, then the reasonable accommodation should be granted because the requester had provided information concerning that their disability related need for the animal. And you would find anything, there may be anything that could be an emotional support animal. Somebody could have mice that's just emotional support animals. So don't discount something just because something is not a dog or a small horse. For purposes of this assessment, reptiles, barnyard animals, monkeys, and other non-domesticated animals are not considered common household animals, of course. If the individual is requesting to keep a unique type of animal that is not commonly kept in households as described above, the requester has the substantial burden of demonstrating a disability-related therapeutic need for that type of animal. The individual is encouraged to submit documentation from their healthcare professional confirming the need for the animal, which includes this information of the type set out in the guidance on documenting the individual's need above. So yeah, as the landlord, if somebody wants to have a tiger, you're going to be able to ask, why could you possibly need a tiger as an emotional support animal? That creates a threat to my community. You're going to be able to have some discretion there. And if you want to refer to this document, it looks like HUD. This is what you would need, right? Again, email me and I'll email you a link to this document, and you would also be able to direct your applicants to the correct sites to be able to show that they actually have an emotional support animal.
We have a question coming in. If you are not allowed to ask the disability, but you are allowing them to make adjustments to the house, how can you gauge what they will do?
I'm sorry, let me turn that up.
If you're not allowed to ask them disability, but you are allowing them to make adjustments to the house, how can you gauge what they will do?
Okay, so with the disability, so let's say a person has an emotional support animal a service animal, and they're in a wheelchair. So what they're going to do is they're going to submit, and there's a place on the Texas application on the TAR form that will allow you for them to, I believe it's at the very top. They changed that in 2016. So that not just people with disabilities, but really anybody can ask for reasonable accommodations to a house. Now, outside of disabilities, the landlord doesn't necessarily have to honor that because people will put paint and everything else on there. But if somebody has a wheelchair, a reasonable accommodation would be for them to build a ramp. So then in the lease, it would be written in that, yes, there wasn't a reasonable accommodation, and that you allowed them to build a ramp with the stipulations that that ramp would be removed at the time the lease was completed, or there may be certain things within the house, handrails and things like that. So reasonable accommodations, you're going to be able to make a pretty good determination when it comes to the disability, without having to do too much digging. When it comes to them making structural changes, you should have a good idea of why those structural changes would be needed. Does that answer that? With the emotional support animal, the reasonable accommodation there is allowing them to have the emotional support animal or the service animal. That wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with the actual house itself. Did we get close at all? Does that answer that?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, good. And again, if y'all want to email me, I'll find the document and that your applicants need to fill out, and I'll get that to you so that you can include that in your process as well. And again, all this information we've covered just about everything: the patient's name, whether the healthcare professional has a relationship with the patient, and the type of animal for your documentation. A disability for purposes under The fair housing laws exist when a person has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Addiction caused by current illegal use or controlled substance does not qualify as a disability. As a best practice, it is recommended that individuals seeking reasonable accommodations for support animals ask healthcare professionals to provide information related to the following. So this is the information that they would need, that the actual applicant would be asking their healthcare provider for the emotional support animal, whether the patient has a physical or mental impairment, the patient's impairment substantially limit at least one major life activity, whether the patient needs the animal because it does work, provides assistance, or performs at least one task. If the animal is not a dog, cat, small bird, rabbit, hamster, gerbil, etc., domesticated animal that is traditionally kept in the home. So again, then we go back to what you're allowed to ask. It may be helpful for the patients to ask their healthcare professionals to provide the following information. This is what's going to help them help you determine, I'm sorry, this would be coming from the applicant, but to help you determine whether that is a true emotional support animal. And again, the best advice I can give when it comes to this, now that you kind of understand the differences between a service animal, a support animal, things you can ask, things you cannot ask, before you put any of this in your policy, just consult with anything that you write up for your front page of your criteria. Please ask your legal counsel, to make sure that you're wording everything correctly there. And we are free for questions. I'd be glad to help answer anything that I can. Again, the resource that I spoke about was petscreening.com. Those guys, just an amazing service. I'm sure we'll see some other things like that come on the market. Right now, they're the only thing that I know of that takes care of that and vets that out. My email is managementscreening.solutions@gmail.com. And really appreciate the opportunity to work with HAR and provide the article and help facilitate the webinar. You guys have an amazing team there too.
Thank you so much, Jason. I do not see any questions coming in, but again, he provided his email information. He's very responsive. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask him. Just a few people saying thank you and that this was a great information.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason.